Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another channel update slash event video because, man, since I did the channel update video at the beginning of this month, we're not even quite halfway through it, and there's been a lot of stuff going on in the last few days. So we're just going to get right into things here. And before I go any further, I am sure I will miss something. So, if your favorite game or topic didn't come up, I might have just forgotten because, like I said, it's been a wild few days. Quick channel update for everybody. Again, thank you to everybody who has been watching and subscribing and supporting the channel and everything like that. Very much appreciated. If you are new to the channel, I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, sometimes bonus videos here and there. Mondays are stream archives typically. Wednesdays and Saturdays are everything else. And you can find everything by playlist. Low vision games, accessible, blind accessible games, iOS, PC, some console stuff, hardware reviews, VR accessibility, game accessibility, all kinds of stuff. Check it out. Um, As far as recent and upcoming videos, I do want to, if you missed it, I did do a accessible game spotlight video for the PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us, and yes, it is just as accessible as The Last of Us 2 was, and maybe even a little bit more so because there is audio description for cutscenes, and I played with them on just to see how it worked, and it was very seamless and it worked very well. Definitely check that video out if you have not done so already. And I know people have mentioned, like, for especially some accessible games, people, and I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, I totally appreciate it. Things for like The Last of Us or The Veil or, any number of accessible games. I might cover them as a spotlight, let's say, where I will show off the game, but I don't necessarily do a full playthrough, or maybe I'll stream, the first couple hours as I did The Last of Us Part 2. And, partly I don't know that I really have, part of it is I don't necessarily have time to stream or to do full playthroughs for games, especially if they're really long. But the other part of it is, especially for accessible games, I want to showcase them to you, but I don't want to necessarily play the whole thing through for you because I want you guys to go support the developers for yourself. People are always starved for new games and accessible games, and I totally get that. So when there are accessible titles out there, I want to show you where they are. I want to show you that they, how accessible they are or that they're around. But I also want to encourage people to check out the games if possible for yourselves because A, you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and B, you'll be supporting the developers. So that's kind of why I haven't, especially for some of the accessible games that people have asked me if I would do more of a a let's play through. I much of the time probably won't. Like I did stream all the way through the Veil earlier this year, but that was kind of a rare exception. But that's kind of the way I look at it. So that hopefully that answers people's questions. And again, I appreciate the interest and I appreciate the support. But like I said, I want you guys to play the games too. So, upcoming things to the channel. I still have yet to do my Steam Deck review. It's just been really crazy busy lately, and I'm hoping to get that done this week because within the next week tops, I'm hoping to get it done. There's a few videos that I want to do that I want to release. But there's a lot of things coming out and coming up as well, as you'll soon see. So the Steam Deck review, I still want to do that. Um, I can't really talk too much about them, but one of the reasons I'm kind of busy is, yes, my day job, but I've actually gotten the opportunity to do a couple of consulting gigs. And some may be tech accessibility or game accessibility. Unfortunately, I'm not really at liberty to say much more than that due to being under NDA, but I will say that it is good. I had one, I kind of teased it on Twitter yesterday, that I had a consulting gig and it went really well. Um, really fun, really looking forward to seeing what becomes or what comes from that, but that's really all I can say at the moment. But hopefully it will be some really good news. And I've got a couple other potential gigs coming up in late September, possibly early October. And if you have not registered for GAConf next month, you can go in person. They have limited attendance available in person if you're wanting to go there. I will not be there in person, um, but you can also register for free attendance. You can watch the videos without registering, but if you want to participate in the live chat during the day, during the sessions, which I would highly recommend if you're interested in game accessibility, because a lot of the conversation, that's where you meet people, you meet developers, you meet people in the industry, so you get your name out there. People have said, how do I do what you do? How do I become an advocate? How do I become a consultant? Where do I start? That's a great place to start. Virtually attend the GAConf Game Accessibility Conference and connect with people in chat. Just have some discussion. Maybe somebody will DM you, or you can DM them, and I've made a lot of different connections, whether it's at the Game Accessibility Conference, CSUN, through my work, any number of things. You just never know. So, but I am going to be participating in a panel at the Game Accessibility Conference next month. So you will, in fact, get to see a session with yours truly if you are interested in that kind of thing. So, very much looking forward to the Game Accessibility Conference next month. That's another thing I got to do some prep work for, but looking forward to that. Realms Deep is this weekend. I said I kind of wanted to put off the video until after Realms Deep. That was the original plan, but we had a feeling there was going to be a Nintendo Direct, but we totally got blindsided. I think late yesterday. No, was it even today, this morning? Sony's like, oh no, by the way, yeah, we're gonna have a state of play on the 13th as well. So Nintendo in the morning and Sony in the afternoon. Just, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we're gonna have a state of play too. And so we're gonna talk about those in this video because I'm recording that just after the PlayStation event. But yeah, Realms Deep, very much looking forward to that. You never know, there might be some surprise product releases for some retro shooters. There might be some retro shooter demos that I must investigate, so that could possibly be a thing. So those are some stuff I might want to look into and report on or play or record videos for at some point. Of course, last week we had the Apple event, which I thought about doing a video for, but I decided not to. If you do follow blind um, blind abilities and more specifically tech abilities, I did get to guest on an episode of their podcast last week, and so that episode is out right now. There's a few of us that were talking a little bit about Apple's event. Just to give you a quick rundown, we knew there was going to be Apple Watch. We knew there was going to be the new iPhones. Pretty sure there was going to be the AirPods, and that's basically what they had. We do have three versions of the Apple Watch. We have kind of the lower, what is it, the SE, I think it's called. There's just so many things running through my head right now, so sorry if I mix something up. But you have, the kind of lower end one if you want to save some money and get into the Apple Watch. You have the Series 8, And you have the Apple Watch Ultra. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on these, but suffice it to say, I was toying with the idea earlier of upgrading my Apple Watch because I'm back at a Series 4, which is still holding up okay. I can definitely tell, like I did upgrade to Watch OS 9, and it does run pretty well, but I notice if I have voiceover on, it's a little more sluggish, but it still runs okay. But I kind of wanted to get off of the cellular plan kind of a deal, so I did decide to pre-order the Apple Watch Series 8. And I should be getting that on Friday, so after I use it for a week or two, maybe, I will try and do a review, hardware review for that device, just to show you guys that. I mean, the Apple, it comes in a 41 or 45 millimeter. Of course, you get Watch OS 9 with it. It's got a temperature sensor. Now, I'm a little bit confused, and I hope I'm not disappointed, but one of the things that they really focused on for the temperature sensor was mainly related to like health tracking for women, like tracking their cycles, the period, and especially like if people are like looking to get pregnant or whatever, or any changes and things like that. And that's really cool. That's a really great thing because, I mean, women's health is very important. But what I was hoping with the temperature sensor, and I don't know if it can quite see, it's weird because they said, oh, it can, they were bragging about how it can measure changes in temperature within like less than a degree. But then I hear that it might not be able to track actual temperature because my hope for this would be, especially that we've just gotten out of COVID, can we use, instead of using like one of those, you wave one of those talking thermometers, which, some of them are better than others, but like, you wave it in front of somebody and, sometimes it says you're normal, sometimes it says you're way high temperature, or it just fluctuates and stuff. So, can you take, or can you at least look at your overall body temperature? Like, can it, if you're, let's say you, like when you open the health app or the heart rate app in previous versions of iOS, you could kind of look at it and you could do like a minute long thing and it would give you your average your heart rate. Can you like check your temperature if you have an Apple Watch? Like that's what I was hoping this sensor would allow. And maybe even if it can't quite at launch, is that something that they could do as a software or firmware update? Um, because I think that would be really a neat and accessible way to, again, check your temperature. That was a big thing where people, if we wanted to meet somebody in person for work, even for a while, we had to, check and make sure, we had like a talking thermometer. You hit the button and it would, you just hold it in front of them or however, and it would, tell the temperature. You'd have to do some pre-check before they were even allowed to meet with you. So I'm hoping that it can do like a basic temperature, tell it what your body temperature is, but I have not necessarily confirmed that. Um, Part of me thinks I'm going to be disappointed based on sort of what I've been reading, that I don't know if it's that precise or exact, or I don't know if it supports that feature yet. But that was sort of the hope. Um, and I think it'll just be nice to have an updated Apple Watch. It'll run faster. I found out one of the new Watch OS 9 and iOS 16 features is you can look at and you can mirror and you can remote control your Apple Watch from your iPhone, which for making videos, if I want to cover watch apps, that's kind of cool. That's kind of convenient. But I was thinking, other than that, why would you really do that? And I was talking with somebody about it, and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe that's for, let's say somebody has a mobility impairment and they can't really, the watch face is too small. They want to have the watch and some of its health benefits, but maybe they can't, precisely control something on the watch. So having it on the phone screen, which is larger, could be a way to do that. I'm like, actually, that's pretty smart. That could work. But I was trying to figure out how to do it last night because I downloaded iOS 16, I downloaded watchOS 9, and I couldn't do it. Like, it's supposed to be under accessibility. There's like a mirror watch option, and it's not there. And I finally found in somebody's YouTube comment that says, "Oh, you have to have a Series 6 or later for that to work." I'm like, "Oh, now it becomes clear." So yeah, I cannot physically do that feature with my watch Series 4 right now. So this weekend we'll see if I'll be able to play with some of that. But yes, I'm getting an Apple Watch Series 4, or Series 8, I mean. I have the Series 4, and I'm just getting the GPS one. I'm ditching the cellular. I thought about the Apple Watch Ultra. Like, it's $800, which, I mean, even if you get a steel version of the 8, it's probably pretty close in price. I think if I was going to do that, I might wait for, like, the second or third iteration of the Ultra for them to kind of iron out a few things. Because there are a couple things that do sound interesting about it, even from an accessibility point of view. I mean, this is a behemoth 49 millimeter, and you only get the one choice. It's a 49 millimeter size screen, and it has extra GPS functionality. It's more rugged. But the GPS stuff really kind of intrigued me because they were showing this feature, like, they were using it for, like, if you were in the wilderness and, like, oh, you were wandering, or went for a hike and you forgot and you lost your way back to your tent or your campsite. And I guess it would kind of record your path as you were walking, so you kind of a breadcrumb trail, and you could just follow. It had this little red line that would kind of weave through where you were going. And yeah, that would be neat in nature. But imagine that as a mobility aid for someone who is blind or visually impaired. They go somewhere new and they get lost or whatever, to even just get them back on track. I would love to see that type of feature just come to Apple Maps in general, or be some sort of Apple feature that would come to, other versions of the watch or the phone. That would be a really cool thing, because literally a coworker and I were talking about something similar just about a week and a half ago. And I know there are apps like, I think, I don't know if it's Blind Square that kind of does something like that. Soundscape, I think, has some sort of thing where you can plop down and then, a marker and then come back to it. There's another one that uses your camera, and I can't for the life of me. I was trying to remember that for somebody else the other day. There was one where you walk around, but it uses your camera to record your route, and then you can kind of follow it back breadcrumb trail. I tried it in the office a couple of years ago, but I can't remember what the heck that app was even called. But the technology is neat. They talked about, the buttons were bigger. It just, you're able to use this if you are wearing gloves. Well, being up in Minnesota, it gets kind of nippy. So being able to manipulate the watch a little bit easier with gloves on, that sounds like a pretty good idea. And then pretty much double the battery life. What they say, starting at like 32 or 36 hours. And then there's an update coming later this year where you can possibly get it up to about 60. Um, 60. So that's really cool. Um, that being said, if you have a watch Series 4 or later, you can enable a new battery saver feature, and it doesn't disable everything, but it kind of gets rid of some of the stuff that really regularly turns or causes your battery. I was at 70 some percent when I went to bed last night, and what is it now? um, I don't have voiceover on. It looks like 50, 52, or I think it. I'd have to turn the voiceover on to see. But I turned it on just because I wanted to see how much more use I got out of it. Um, so we're in the middle of that experiment right now, and then I'll definitely try it when I get the Series 8. But yeah, I'm sort of potentially interested in the Ultra, but I couldn't splurge for it this time. AirPods don't really care. I mean, in theory, yeah, they're really neat, but I've said before, I don't like sticking things in my ear. I've just never liked earbuds in general. That's why I love the aftershocks because they have the benefit of being super light and they're not in your ear, but they work for what they're needed, what I need them for. And I absolutely love my AfterShokz Open Comms. Check out that hardware review if you haven't already. The Open Comms are a winner because they're included boom mic. So I'll just kind of breeze by the AirPods. Sorry, AirPods fans, but I don't really know. I mean, they have spatial sound, and you take a picture of your ear, and it's supposed to customize it for you and things like that. But I don't know too much more than that about them. The iPhones were about what we expected. Of course, you got the 14, the 14 Pro, the 14 Pro Max, but we're also getting a 14 Plus. Now, this could be really helpful for low vision users because if you wanted the larger 6.5, 6.7-inch models, you had to go with the Pro until this year. You had to go with the Pro Max, and that's a good chunk of change. But now you can get a 6.7-inch model, the 14 Plus. Yeah, it doesn't have the three cameras, it has two cameras instead, but the cameras are still perfectly fine. If you want to use it as a CCTV, but you want to save a bit of money and still have a larger screen, I kind of like that because now, if you want to save some money and have a larger screen in general and also use it for, magnification or as a CCTV, that's not a bad deal. And if you want to spring for the little bit of extra features and clarity, you can still go with the Pro, the Pro line. I am not getting a new phone this year because I'm holding my 13 Pro Max, and there's not enough new to justify the change. Of course, the major feature that they really talked about in the 14 Pro line, the Pro and the Pro Max, is the dynamic island. Yes, the dynamic island, which I thought was hilarious because I think it was Joe Steinkamp. He posted a thing where they did a verse of, what was it, islands in the stream, but they parodied it with the dynamic island. It was freaking hilarious. Nice job, sir. But the dynamic island, for people who don't understand what that is basically instead of the notch, they've moved the notch away from the top edge of the phone down just a tiny bit, and they put all of this, like this camera and the sensors, under the screen. Um, but you always have this sort of little black, like rectangular. Think of it like a long pill. And by default it's small, but as you get, let's say, a notification, or you have these little adaptive widgets that can plop out of that little pill, so the pill will grow in size, and then, like, oh, there's your now playing, and so you have your play, pause, fast forward, rewind. Maybe you have your updated sports score, maybe you have some other notification, so it just grows and shrinks and whatever as it needs to. But that's basically what it is. I mean, it's just like an artsy thing for them to say, hey, look, we did some kind of artsy weird thing that we did. I'm sure it's fine. Like, to me, it looked a little bit weird when I looked at the or when I looked at some of the footage of it, because, like, now you have the notch, but now when you have the dynamic island, now you see a little bit of, like, let's say you're watching something in landscape, and you see, like, the video goes to the phone edge, but then you have this just big old rectangular pill shape on one side of your phone, um, just off of the one side of the of your phone, and it kind of looks weird. But we'll get used to that, just like we did the notch. So whatever. And the other reason I wanted to wait is because they have to do it eventually. The Europe is going to make them, and I'm waiting until they hopefully finally next year upgrade to USB-C, because then I can have fewer cables, and USB-C is faster than Lightning if I want to transfer stuff or whatever. So yeah, USB-C, not bad. I'm kind of waiting for that, so we'll see. That is the Apple event. That's all I'm really going to cover for now. But there you go. There's a few thoughts on that. Let's get into the last couple days of gaming. This weekend we had a Ubisoft event, and I'm just going to run down. I'm not going to go through everything here, but I'm just going to touch on a few things here. Otherwise, this video is going to go 3 hours long if I covered everything in the last few days. But they really focused on Assassin's Creed. Of course, it's been a huge series. And so we're going to get a new one next year called Mirage. That could be kind of neat. That one's in China, I believe. And that looked interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what accessibility features they have in there because they already started doing that in Valhalla. Hopefully they can make it more blind accessible, not just low vision accessible. But then the one that everyone is really interested in is Project Red. People have been wanting one set in feudal Japan for a long time. And after Mirage, that is the next one they are working on, and that is what we are going to get. So it's just called Project Red for now. Um, but yeah, especially think about accessibility. They improve it a little bit for Mirage, and then they have even more time to work on feudal Japan. So by the time that one comes out, maybe we'll have a blind accessible Assassin's Creed, and it'll be badass samurai. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That sounds cool to me. Um, they have a couple of Assassin's Creed like mobile games coming. Not really too interested in that because they're probably going to be free to play. They're probably going to be microtransactions. I don't know how accessible it's going to be. So, we'll see, but, Assassin's Creed Mobile for what it is. I believe there's a Netflix series coming out of that as well pretty soon of Assassin's Creed. I forgot what it was called, but I think they mentioned that. Um, Speaking of mobile games, they were talking about a Division mobile game, which, I don't know. Again, I mean, it looked kind of neat from like a, mobile standpoint, but again, I just AAA and free to play and games as a service and mobile and microtransactions. That's like just the first thing that I hear, and it kind of like they're gonna have to prove me wrong, basically, for me to become interested in that game. Sorry, but that's just the truth. Skull and Bones, yeah, that's supposed to be still coming out later this year. I like the idea of becoming a pirate, but I've never really liked, I mean, even in Valhalla, like steering the ships and all that kind of stuff. I'm like an on foot kind of guy, like running around and pillaging, with my swords, and that stuff is fun, but we'll see. I'm not sure how much I'll be into the sea battles and things like that, but or what accessibility features might be in Skull and Bones. We'll just have to see. Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus. I believe it's season 3 that's coming out soonish. I remember watching the first season, and I can't remember if I either started or I finished the second season. I can't remember if I did. But what I've watched of it, it was all right. It was about this kind of fictional company making a game, and I believe it was like an MMO of some sort, and it was neat. Um, I might check it out. I might try to refresh my memory and catch up on it here before season 3 comes out. So we'll see. Um, and then they have this service. You can, if you go to the Ubisoft website, you can find out about it. Basically, for like the next 30 days or the next month, you can sign up with their service, and then you can try a lot of these Ubisoft games that are currently available for free. So it seems like kind of everybody's trying to do some sort of like a Game Pass type of thing. You know, you've got Game Pass, you've got the Switch Online, you've got EA Play, I think it's called. I can't even remember. You have the Ubisoft thing. So there's just, you know, you're getting to see a few more of these types of things becoming available and doing things a little bit differently. Riders Republic is getting a new update with some more content. I love the idea of that game, but I just wish it had a little bit more accessibility, and I just wish I had a little bit more time to really devote to it because, again, it's just one I'd like to dedicate more time to, but I don't know if I'm going to have time. Mario plus Rabbids Spark of Hope. That is coming out next month, October. And it looks neat. I did pick the first one up because it was on sale for like, I think 9, $10. And again, it's on my pile of shame. I have not actually gotten to play with it because I'm not really into strategy games to begin with. And I think that's largely due to just trying to see some of the interface and all the menus and stuff. Um, so I still need to even get around to trying the first one. Um, but you know, I mean, Mario games can generally be made, you know, make things more approachable for a genre. You know, I mean, I don't really like golf. I don't like Mario Golf game or golf games, but hey, I played my fair share of Mario Golf. I've played Mario RPG, and I'm not really into turn-based RPGs that much. So hey, you know, maybe I'll get around to it one day. But that's coming out. Rocksmith, I believe it was Plus or Premium. I did pick up the original Rocksmith for the PC several years ago. I have no idea what I did with my adapter, you know, because it was like a USB adapter where you could plug your guitar into one end and then the other into your computer. And it was neat because if nothing else, you could use it as like you could change your amp effects and things. You could make your guitar sound differently. But all the lessons and things are so visual that I couldn't see it well enough to try to play and also try to get close enough to the screen. It just did not work for me. I'm not quite sure how you would make that type of interface blind accessible, but God, I would love that because I mean, if I could get more of like an you know, instead of just trying to read like sheet music or memorize tablature, if I could get some sort of a, you know, and you know, again, you know, it's not just like they're presenting with you like this is how you learn this song. You know, you can learn it a step at a time, like learn the kind of easier version and then step into, um, you know, more detail until you do have the full riff down. So I love the idea of Rocksmith, but dang it, I just can't see well enough to really make use of it. And I haven't heard anything about any improved accessibility, so I don't know. But I mean, it's a cool idea, but I wish that's one that I can't even do, unfortunately. I know there were some other things that I missed. I know there was like some Just Dance thing or something. I really don't care about Just Dance or dancing games at all. So, you know, whatever on that. And I'm sure there was a couple things in the Ubisoft presentation that I missed, Ubisoft Forward. But before I end on Ubisoft, I do have to commend them because they had multiple streams available, and I think they had two different audio described streams in different languages. They had like they had different sign language streams. I think two or three of those, and I knew one person that did some audio description for that. I recognized him, Mr. Brandon. Yeah, I heard you. I knew he was in one of the other ones too. But yeah, I heard him in there, and I remember seeing on Twitter he said that at least three or four of them that were doing parts of the audio description were blind or visually impaired. So they even got blind people to do the narration for the scripts for the audio description. So that was really cool to see. Very nice and accessible presentation. So huge kudos to Ubisoft for making their presentations accessible. So now if their games can just be as accessible so we can be just as hyped for the games as we are the presentations, then we're talking. Moving on to Nintendo this morning. I gotta say, in a large part, I'm kind of disappointed. And this is why I don't get excited for Nintendo Directs. I don't get excited for Nintendo events or announcements because there's what people wish for and what they think they'll do, and then there's what Nintendo does. Everyone's like, oh, we're gonna get a Metroid Prime remaster. We're gonna get maybe a Metroid Prime trilogy. Oh, we're gonna get a double pack of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker for Zelda. Nope, we didn't get either one of those. And I was kind of sad about the Zelda because I still really would love to play Wind Waker on my shiny OLED Switch. That art style would just look phenomenal on that sharp screen. So instead, Nintendo, they had lots of farming games. I mean, literally, there were at least 4 to 5 different ones that were focused around farming. There was like Story of Seasons. There was some Rune Factory one. There was I can't even remember them all. Some of them had elements of like combat to them. Like the Rune Factory is sort of combined like monster fighting and farming, and there was like Dark Season, I think it was called, or something. I mean, like I said, there was like literally 4 or 5 games. So if you want to be an RPG farmer, Nintendo's got your back. They got a buttload of those, not even counting the ones that are already out on the platform. So if you're a farmer, they got you, man. And then they had lots of Japanese RPGs. Again, not a genre I'm typically into, so I just really didn't care too much about a lot of that either. But they had like Octopath Traveler 2. They had oh, what is it called? I had it in my head just a second ago, literally. Fire Emblem, new one of those. They did have a remake of Tales of Symphonia, which there is a port of that on the PC, which I've heard not so good things about. I don't know if it's been patched. I did play Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube originally when it came out, and that was one of the few JRPGs I liked because it was action. Like you would go into a battle screen, but it was actually real time kind of side scrolling combat gameplay. But there, even if I wanted to play the remaster, there's no way that I would even bother because I remember when I played that game back in the day. I mean, I probably put 60, 80 hours into the damn game and I did beat it. But those Tales games are not short, and that's why I have not played. I think I've beaten Symphonia, maybe Symphonia 2. I don't remember if I beat Vesperia, and that's about it. Like, I kind of want to check out Tales of Arise, but I don't have time for that long of a game. I don't have time to sit around and play video games all day. I got a job, I got other obligations. So as much, even if I wanted to play an RPG like that, it's just not going to happen. But like I said, there was a couple front mission games which are kind of more tactical. They're kind of they're like these mech games. I like the idea of them, but again, I'm just never been into the turn-based strategy type of things. I mean, there were loads. I can't even remember them all. There were loads of Japanese RPGs. And then on a related topic to Japanese RPGs, they also had these Theatrhythm Final Fantasy. So, it's kind of this rhythm game based on Final Fantasy music. There's been other ones in the series, but I guess to celebrate their, what did they say, 30th or 35th anniversary, they're doing a game that's, a whole bunch of content, Final Fantasy music, over 300 and some songs, and then extra DLC for other games in the series and other Square properties. And even just looking at the gameplay, like it didn't look even very low vision friendly because there was very busy backgrounds and notes scrolling up and down or side to side on the screen, and that just looked really tough to really be able to see, especially in some of the scenes. So even if you like, the Final Fantasy series and are into that kind of music, I mean, they're to be fair, their music is good, but it just really did not even look very low vision friendly. Speaking of rhythm and not being super visually friendly, they also had oh, what was it called? It's in my oh yeah, okay, Fist of the North Star. This kind of little fitnessy type game. It's like a fitness boxing game, and you have these little icons that are moving up the screen on either side for your left and right punch and that. I mean, it has this whole kind of anime look to it, it was neat. But again, it would be something, especially, man, if I'm boxing, if I'm making boxing motions, I definitely can't be close to the TV for that. So, accessibility wise, that's out. But if you can see, you could play it. Um, they had a Splatoon. They announced their Splatoon 3 Splatfest coming up. It's kind of where they give you a topic and you kind of choose a side and then you fight for it during Splatoon battles. So I don't know if I'm going to get Splatoon 3. I mean, I love just the regular mode. I forget, Turf War, I think it's called. That was kind of fun, but again, I don't have time to sink into all these games. I have to really pick and choose. I mean, my backlog as it is just embarrassingly large. So there's games that I might even like to play at some point, but I don't, I'm just gonna have to pass them up for now. Maybe I'll get them on sale, but Splatoon 3 might be one of those games. Mario Kart 8 tracks, they were talking a while ago. They're gradually releasing lots of old courses over the next several months. We've already had, I think, two sets of them, and then holiday season we're getting a few more courses, and they teased a couple of them. So yeah, I mean Mario Kart 8, if you can see well enough, and if you like Mario Kart, good lord, by the time they're done, I think you're gonna have, what is it, like 96? I think it was like 96 tracks. So there's a lot of content in that Mario Kart game. I mean, that is pretty awesome. And I do like me some Mario Kart. So yeah. N64 games, more N64 games coming to the Switch Online, the Plus version. And there's some ones I really don't care about. They had like the first few Mario parties, like 1, 2, and I think even 3. They had Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, Pilot Wings 64. But then they had a couple that I was kind of interested in. 1080 snowboarding. I've mentioned that in the past. I played a lot of 1080 snowboarding in college. So that one I'm looking forward to. Excite Bike 64, kind of a motocross game. That was really neat. I think I do have the cartridge for that in my closet somewhere. Um, I was not very good at it, but it was neat and it was a good motocross game. So yeah, that is a thing. And then we got to talk about the last N64 game. So you remember how forever people have been wanting and it's been rumored and yada yada? Yep, GoldenEye. We are getting GoldenEye 64 sometime in the nearish future on Switch Online, if you have the Switch Online Plus. So you can play it through there. This is going to be the N64. Here's the interesting thing. It is going to be the N64 original, cleaned up a little bit, maybe a little bit of Switch optimization. I don't know how it's going to play if you have like a Pro controller or just using the Joy-Cons. I don't know if they're going to add like dual analog stick support or if you're going to really want to get one of those N64 controllers for the Switch. But the neat thing is it's going to have online multiplayer. Now, where the plot thickens is shortly after the Nintendo Direct. Oh, Sony and Microsoft or Sony and Nintendo are doing something. Well, Rare and Microsoft couldn't be left out. Rare announced that the Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles is also getting GoldenEye 007, but you had to really pay attention because I don't think these are going to be the same games. And here's the thing. Here's I think what's happening. As I said, N64 is getting the original N64, maybe cleaned up a little bit, hopefully optimized a little bit, and it's getting online play. Remember that they were in the works for Xbox arcade version of GoldenEye forever, but they just couldn't get the licensing done to do it. They released Perfect Dark and all that, but they never could do GoldenEye. Well, and remember, it was either last year or early this year, there was that leak of a nearly finished version of that Xbox release onto the PC. I have that. I covered it on the channel. It was neat. This is a fully graphically remade version, and just like the Halo Anniversary Collection, or yeah, Anniversary Collection, or no, it's not the Master Chief Collection. It's the Halo Anniversary, where you could switch between the new and the old graphics on the fly. It seems like that's what this Xbox version is going to be, but I don't know if you're actually going to be able to buy it. It seems like it's only going to be available on Game Pass, or if you own a digital copy of Rare Replay, you can also get it as basically a free DLC to Rare Replay. Now, I actually have a physical version of Rare Replay. That was one of the few physical games back in the beginning of the Xbox One days that I did get. So I don't think I will get the free version that way, but I will get it because I do have Game Pass Ultimate. But here's the other twist. This is where the plot thickens. So like I said, you're going to, on the Xbox version, it is not the original game. This is kind of it's going to have dual analog support, widescreen. It's going to have up to 4K supports, frame rate optimization, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of going to be that official version of that Xbox arcade leak that we got fairly recently. But from what I understand, having looked into this a little bit and read a few different things, the Xbox version, and don't quote me on this because I'm not for certain, but the Xbox version seems like it's only going to be split screen. So and you think about online, I mean, you think, boy, Xbox is going to be online if anything. But I think the reason this even was allowed to happen, because, like I said, GoldenEye, the rights have been in like copyright hell forever. And I think the only reason they were able to do it is because, you had Rare, you had Microsoft, you had whoever owns the GoldenEye IP or the, James Bond license. All these companies, like at least 4 or 5 companies, had to be involved. And it's like, okay, well, each one of these platforms needs something that they can say, hey, we have the better version. You want to play GoldenEye here. So in order to make this deal even happen, it sounds like, okay, Nintendo gets the original because that's where the good game came out on. And because you figured out on the N64, you figured out you were doing multiplayer support for some of your games. So we'll let you include that. That will be your perk. Xbox had the remastered version, so you get pretty colors, pretty graphics, you get your dual analog support, you get all the things like you had in Perfect Dark, but maybe they didn't get online support if it's not going to be in there. Maybe they didn't get online support because that's the perk that Nintendo wanted to be like, hey, we need something to make, yeah, you're yours is going to look better, but we need some reason for people to want to come back to our platform and play our version. So I'm guessing, call it a hunch, but I mean, that kind of seems like even the reason that this was even allowed to happen. But it is neat. I will play it likely on both. I will check out both versions eventually when they come out. So yeah, that was my biggest news of the Nintendo Direct. I mean, hell has frozen over. GoldenEye is officially coming out again. That's kind of nuts. Um, let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, Radiant Silvergun. If you're into bullet hell vertical shooters, they have a remaster of that coming out. I think that's out actually today, if I recall correctly. So you're into shmups, you can go ahead and try that. Later this month, they are getting Tunic. The Switch is getting Tunic. I covered the PC version of that on the channel earlier this year. Kind of a difficult game, but I really like the look of it. It's like an isometric Wind Waker art style, Zelda-ish type of game, but it is really kind of tough. So if you want to play that on the Switch, I'm hoping it'll run well enough, and yeah, you can play that on the go now. Pikmin 4, they are doing a Pikmin next year, Pikmin 4. Miyamoto came out to announce that, and he spent a little bit of time, of all things, talking about the Pikmin mobile game, which just, it's been out for a while and no one seems to really care or no one's really playing it. So they're like, well, we want people to play it. Maybe if we get Miyamoto out there to promote it a little, maybe it'll pick up again. But I don't know. From what I hear, there's just not really much to it. You know, you got the Pokemon Go thing, but you know, Pikmin is sort of a similar thing, except you're not really battling anything. You're just like growing Pikmin and planting flowers or something, and you know, whatever. But and it is not accessible either. So Pikmin, and then Resident Evil Village and a couple of other games in the Resident Evil series are coming to the Nintendo Switch, but they're cloud versions because again, the Switch is running on, that came out in 2017. That's like 5+ years old now. And it's already, you know, it is definitely starting to show its age with the processor they got in that thing. And so it literally cannot run Resident Evil Village. So just like they've done with some of, I think they did like Dying Light, and I forget, there's probably a good 3 or 4 games that they have done like a cloud streaming version. And I have not tried any of them, but I don't know. I haven't heard much about them, good, bad, or otherwise, but that's going to be a thing closer to Halloween. So there's that. Um, Also, in October or November, I forget, Bayonetta 3. That's been a long time coming. A lot of action game fans are really looking forward to that. That is another series. I started to play the first one, and I just never got around to finishing it. I own the second one. I've touched it a little bit, but again, that's just a series that I need to really, if I want to play 3, I want to at least go through some of the first games first. So, you know, it's your Platinum Games Action Fest. Really kind of a neat game. Just one I really don't have a whole lot of experience with. Switch Sports, the golf expansion or DLC got delayed till holiday. It was supposed to come out this fall, but or this in the next month or so, but it got pushed back. But yeah, you'll be able to play Wii Sports Golf essentially, or Switch Sports Golf. That'll be coming. They advertised some new content for Mario Strikers, the soccer game. I'm not really into soccer, and it sounded like they really didn't have a whole lot of single player content for that game, so probably not gonna check it out personally. Kirby Return to Dreamland is coming out in February next year. That one is it's a it's a remaster of a 2D Kirby game, and it looks pretty good. I don't know. I might check it out. We'll see. But you get all the transformation powers, and it looked pretty good. But almost like the new Super Mario Brothers games. I was talking with somebody even about those recently, and like everything is so bright and colorful. Like that is the new Super Mario Brothers and the 2D Kirby games, and even like the Yoshi one that came out a couple years ago, the Crafted World or whatever it was called. Everything is so bright and colorful that is a game. Those are games that really need an option to dim the background. Like Eagle Island had the ability to dim or disable the background, so you could be playing against like even just like a blue sky, or if you had like a black background, then it would be much easier to play. Because between all the foreground and background, this thing's out, it was easy to overlook or couldn't tell if something was in the foreground or a background ledge, or enemies or projectiles. It was easier or it was harder to see them. So it looks neat, but there could be some even low vision accessibility issues with that. Finally, we have the release date and we have a name for Breath of the Wild 2, which is Tears of the Kingdom, and it is coming out May 12th. So, that is probably going to be your last hurrah for the Nintendo Switch, if I had to guess, unless it gets delayed again and gets put onto their new system, which hasn't happened ever before. But that is Nintendo, and normally that would be it. But no, we have Sony yet. See why I didn't want to wait till after Realms Deep? Good lord. Um, so yeah, Sony. After work, I watched the Sony event. We have Tekken 8. That looked pretty neat. I hope it's more focused on like one-on-one fighting because I've never really been into the Tekken tag. I've never been into tag team-based fighters. It's just not my thing. I mean, it looked really good. I mean, even just like the punching, like just the impact and force of all the attacks and everything. I really kind of like that. I mean, I think it might be distracting or might be problematic for people who are sensitive to screen shake and those type of effects. But I mean, I thought it looked pretty cool. We got to see some potential type of gameplay for it. That was good. Tekken 8, couple of couple of PlayStation VR 2 titles. We had a Star Wars Tales of the Galaxy's Edge. I don't even remember the earlier version of that game. I remember the Vader Immortal series, which I played on the Rift and the Quest, but I don't know if I've ever played the other one. Um, but again, it looked like there was some, you're doing some shooting and first person shooting. As much as I love it, in VR, aiming in VR can be rather difficult. So I'm not sure how playable this is going to be for me, pending any accessibility features. Demio kind of seemed to be like this really kind of a neat, almost like a tabletop role playing game sort of deal, but in VR. I'm not exactly sure how it plays, but I don't know. I mean, the art style, I mean, everything, like the fidelity of these VR games is pretty incredible, even going from, like early VR titles to what they can do now. You think about how futuristic and you thought things like Lawnmower Man or, even things in like the 90s and like, oh my God, VR is cool. But that stuff, what they thought was cutting edges, even the original VR stuff was far beyond how primitive that 90s stuff looked. So that's only two VR titles that they talked about. Like a Dragon, I think that's a Yakuza. They just called it Like a Dragon, I think though, but I think it's a Yakuza thing. And I thought that one was, the original, I thought it was more of that the turn-based one, but this one looked like it was actual like two like brawling, like you play it like a beat 'em up. And the thing that kind of concerned me, as cool as a lot of these games looked in Sony's presentation today, the state of play, a lot of them were Japanese voice acted. And sure, that's great for authenticity, especially the subject material in a lot of these games focused on Japan. But I do hope that they are English dubbed, at least as an option, because unless they have some sort of text to speech for subtitles, it's going to be the Yakuza series all over again, and I'm not going to be able to really play them and understand the plot. But yeah, like a Dragon, I mean, that looked really neat. Um, Coming out for the PS5. Not sure when, but it looked interesting. Pacific Drive. This is, I forget the studio, but it's their first game, one of the Sony's new studios. I don't know what this is. You're mainly driving around and like stuff is happening and there's rain and storms and crashes and it looked like gameplay. Um, no idea what the story is or like if you can get out of the car, if it's all in-car stuff, but it was first person, all cockpit view. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to learn more. Not, I'm curious how accessible it's going to be, but kind of interesting. They had a little trailer for Hogwarts Legacy. I'm personally cautiously looking forward to that game. I love the idea of it. I There was one that was really promising back in the day that I thought was going to be really cool, and you could wander around the school, and it was kind of okay, but it just didn't really do it for me. I'm really hoping this one does. I mean, it looks really kind of neat, and I know there's a lot of people who refuse to play it because of Tweedledum's, aka J.K. Rowling's stance on some human rights issues for sure. Um, it's tough because you know when do you separate a word? It's she wrote the books, but she's not writing the story, and she's supposedly not even involved in the game. They're just basing it off of her universe. So I mean, I obviously she'll get some financial compensation for it because duh, of course she will. And like duh, like she needs any more as it is. But um, I don't know. I mean, I see where some people don't want to support it. I see where some people want to support the developer, especially since really it's their project and not really hers. I mean, it's like if somebody, let's say somebody wrote a book or somebody made a movie about something and they turned out to be a real prick. Um, but then I wrote, and then it came out later that they were a horrible person. But before we found out that I or somebody else wrote like a fan fiction or a spin-off or I did some sort of project for it, you know, do you not support me because it indirectly supports the original author or developer or whatever? I don't know. I'm not going to say one way or another. You just have to make that call for yourself. I'm kind of on a wait and see approach, but I mean, as like I said, as much as J.K. Rowling seems to be stupid in a lot of ways these days, I mean, I still liked her series. Now, I've tried to read a couple of her other books, and they're just god awful. I couldn't stand them, and so I quit like a couple chapters in. Um, but I just didn't really like the book. Um, but like I said, the developers are not necessarily associated with it. Or other than like I said, I know she'll get licensing money from it. But it's the developer's project, so make of it what you will. We're not here to debate that right now. Where this video is going long enough as it is. Moving on. Synduality? This looked kind of neat. I'm not quite sure what this was, but it seemed to be kind of like an actiony type game. If I remember correctly, this was another one that was in Japan. There's one of these that was in Japanese, and I can't remember. There's another one that was in English, and like I said, everything is a blur because so much has happened in just this last day. But it looked cool. I definitely want to learn more about it. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention for Nintendo, Sifu. Yeah, remember Sifu? I played it on the PC earlier this year before my other computer crapped itself. Um, yeah, that is coming to the Switch. I think either late this month or next month. I forget. But assuming it runs halfway decently, yeah, you can play Sifu on the Switch, and that might be kind of cool, especially if they have all the updates and actual difficulty modes and things that are in the newest versions. So cool. Um, Stellar Blade. This one also looked pretty cool. This was another actiony type game. I mean, I noticed that a lot of these, again, they had some gameplay, but that's the one thing I don't really like about a lot of these Sony trailers. And I'm not just going to pick on Sony, but all these, with the Game Awards and Gamescom and things like that. So many of these trailers, they're video games. Show gameplay. Don't just show pre-rendered cinematics. Like that doesn't tell me what your game is. That tells me something about a cutscene. Um, but that looked interesting. Um, PlayStation Stars, this is their upcoming program, kind of like their rewards program, where you play games or earn challenges, and then you can earn swag, digital swag for the most part, I think. I don't know if you're going to also earn like discounts for games or whatnot, but that is kind of a reward program, and it's going to be rolling out later this year, hopefully, um, in North America. Rise of the Ronin. This looked neat, and unfortunately, we really didn't get any gameplay from what I recall. And this one, I believe, was all in Japanese. So, I mean, I get it because, duh, it's Japan. But again, for us people who can't read subtitles quick enough, just for an accessibility wise, I hope there's an English dub because it looked really kind of neat, and I want to know more about it. So yeah, Rise of the Ronin looked kind of neat. And finally, God of War Ragnarok. And we don't know all of the accessibility features that are going to be in this game. We just know that there are going to be some because within the last week, I forget what day, but they did tweet that they are going to have some accessibility features. I'm not even going to say which ones because I honest to God can't remember. Like I said, so many things have happened this last week. Everything's a blur. But it sounds like there's going to be some things regarding like navigation assists and stuff. I can't remember if it said text to speech, but potentially it's a game that it looks like blind players might have a chance of playing. And that's one thing I do have to give it to Sony. A lot of these games they're bigger, they're single player focused. You got action games, you might have some RPGs, you've got action RPGs or whatever. You've got um, really story based games. And I gotta say, right now, as far as actual accessible gameplay, so as long as Microsoft has been doing accessibility in their technology and in their games, Sony is kind of caught up, and I think is actually kind of ahead right now because we have things like your typical fighting games, your Mortal Kombat, your Street Fighter, all that. But then you have The Last of Us 1 and 2 that are industry standards at this point, which I did play all the way through The Last of Us Part 1 last weekend, including the Left Behind content. And because of the accessibility features, it was glorious. It was so much easier to play. I remember playing the original game on the PS3, and I did beat it, but it took me a few weeks at least. And I plowed through the whole damn thing in a weekend just because I wasn't getting lost and I could turn on, I could use the navigation or high contrast or rereading the text to speech. It was glorious. And then God of War, you got Ratchet and Clank had some accessibility. Spider-Man. I know all these aren't blind accessible, but some of them are. And really, Microsoft, yeah, Forza Horizon 5, you could call that blind accessible, but the driving assistant Anna, at least in the beginning, like it doesn't really read you everything, and you can't access all events. And even the driving is kind of like autopilot. You hold down the accelerator and hang on. You don't have a whole bunch of control, like subtle control for your vehicle in a race. Um, Hopefully that'll come with a future installment. But yeah, I mean, Sony, accessibility wise, is starting to do pretty well. I really wish that they would revamp their PlayStation mobile app though, because it is kind of a clunky mess. And why you put the back button in the lower left hand corner where usually there's another picture behind it and it's visually hard to see. It's a tiny button, so even trying to find it with voiceover is kind of a pain. And there are unlabeled buttons or unlabeled like box arts everywhere, whether you're on the PlayStation or the mobile app. That is one thing they really need to fix or touch up on. But like I said, as far as like actually having first party support and accessibility, good for them. Their a few games of theirs are killing it. Finally, we have come to the end of today's video. If you made it this far, congratulations. But as you can tell, things are super busy, and that's why I did not want to wait for After Realms Deep. There's no way. I didn't even keep up everything as it is. So we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to try to upload this tonight for tomorrow's video. I will try to put some timestamp markers in there for you so you can jump to whatever you want to hear. And give the video a like if you did. Hope you liked it. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. So until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.